仕事じゃない。
Good. This is gonna make for one fantastic novel. Ain't that right? Ah! Okay, so before we begin, I do quickly want to address this before the comments start getting to it. But of course, Toei blew their load early and just couldn't keep a secret regarding what's happening with King-Ohger after episode 26. I'll be discussing that with my usual panel on Friday night's Tokutonic livestream, so look forward to that then. In the meantime, we're still on episode 25. See, that right there is a shame. Would have been a high point to end next week's episode, but no, nah. So, look, we're still riding that high, currently, on this week's King Oger. Deathnorak is deep inside the earth, with tentacles built for a mid-2000s flick. Oh, you know the kind I'm talking about. And because of that action being too hot to handle, the Kings gotta come up with a new plan. Cute guy who I thought died, but isn't really. And their plan to combine all 20 shoe gods to make a new mech capable of getting in between Worm on Earth action just long enough to surface. Bet. So what's the issue? Well, they need pilots for every single mech. But before that goes too far, we've got top 10 anime betrayals playing outside, with Jeremy's bug pal flipping the script. He knows just how to get under Jeremy's skin. Taking the hits, Ghetto Jim is trying to give Jeremy just what he lacks. Understanding that he just can't sugarcoat anymore, and sometimes he's gotta get sour. No more being king of the in-between. This man's going to be king of the Bugnarok. And Ghetto Jim gets to be his retainer, which I thought he already was, but in doing so, the shoe gods have spoken. So it turns out the Oja Calibers got that radar to see who can pilot those shoe gods and get into that cockpit. I can make a low-hanging fruit joke about that cockpit radar, but I won't. Not that guy is the first to test out the K***dar, just to see that he's got the goods. As Deathnorak keeps hitting them walls, Yama's K***dar picks up on his usual homies. Himeno's K***dar gets Nurse Chick, some maid who's climbed up the relevance ladder, and Yellow Kaito. Sebastian Dabowski hands his K***dar right up to Kuroda and his sister. I think I've ran this bit to the ground. That ain't hitting right for Morphonia, but you know what is hitting right? The fan art that's about to fill certain websites with this scene. Actually, I'm surprised the music is still going. There's mofus all over the place. What's the deal, Lightspeed? What are you talking about? I love Mofu. Mofu is the greatest. Now, take off those glasses and tell me that again. I love Mofu. They're all so great. Rita beat that ass, didn't they? I don't want to talk about it. Well then. Gira, on the other hand, doesn't want others risking themselves for the mission, but Duga's cool with it, because it's not like he hasn't done that already as his day job. But as it turns out, during last week's dealings, Boom was also chosen. But that's a step Gira doesn't want to take. So 19 out of 20 it is. Odds sound good, but that's actually a 50% success rate. And Gira doesn't like half glass empty mentality. So everyone needs to commit to the bit first, and then he'll get the kid on board. Thus, leading us to a transformation sequence that lasts just about as long as their heat protection. But with everyone's commitment and the suit actor trying not to blow out his back, Deathnorak gets rock blocked straight to the open. So now it's time for the final battle. Everyone is throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at Deathnorak. So it's time to keep going go body as fuck with these poses. And I mean, look at this shot. If you ain't nutting after seeing this, then we ain't homies. With the expansion pack set, Goddamn proves to be the most useful with the finishing King-Ohger finish. Is that a G? You know what? Writes itself. Let's go. But now, the real ending. begins. With this episode of King Oger, we get the debut of Clusterfuck Gatai God King Oger. So with that, let's talk forms. How does one even move in this? The suit actor has to be a total beefcake to maneuver in this shit. Fat ass feet, backpacks galore, just because shit like this works in mecha anime doesn't mean to try to do this in real life. King Oger Extreme, without Tarantula Knight, is still a better combination in terms of appearance. But God King Oger does look better in suit than it did in the initial scans. Rating time! Now knowing that after next week's episode we're onto a dynamic shift in narrative, the culmination of events up until now have definitely reached their crescendo, with this episode taking all the character moments the individual kings have had with their respective peoples and leading to the perfect blend of wholesomeness and dynamic precision storytelling. This is how good writing and proper seed plants look like, and for that, this episode, we going all the way up to Sononi Suzume Double S rank! Given how next week really bookends what could be dubbed as Season 1 of King Oger, narratively, there's a lot of things that makes good on how we got to this point. Throughout the episodes, we got to know each king, their people, and their chemistry with them, with most of the kings sharing a similar ideology of not wanting to get their people involved with the fighting going on around them. But after the course of all these episodes, several infights and growth moments, finally, to have them shed that and fully go all in as they fight side by side to take on a common threat, that is peak character growth. But the thing is, there's been a few red flags, one specifically, the whole no one dies. Can such a thing really pan out? Next week, we'll have to have a major shakeup, but it can't all just end in butterflies and rainbows. We got another half of a story to tell. There's gotta be stakes. There's gotta be a massive revelation. There has to be bittersweet moments. Now, if we were to take cues from other animes that go the time skip route, such as multiple Gundam series, Gurren Lagann, and even more recently in terms of a gaming perspective, I like to equate this show back in its early days to Fire Emblem, then this show will likely end up pulling the wool from under us. Now, before filming this, I was talking to some folks on my server specifically about the characters of Boone and Kogane. Since they are child actors, are they going to recast them for this time skip or keep them away? But then, there's the very real possibility that they just might not make it out of this. And yes, I am implying the sort of bad end that you think I'm implying, but that could fundamentally change Gira completely, especially back when we had indicators of such a thing possibly happening back during episode 1 with Kogane specifically. Jeremy becoming the king of the Bugnaroks answers the questions that I had last week about the potential power void, but with Kamajin still on the loose, he could still be the potential key between the old enemies and the new ones. Since we know there does exist another new threat after this. And man, I've been on a roll with some of my early predictions and speculation on this show. Almost gives me a shining feeling inside. And look, this episode doesn't really bring anything new to the table lore-wise, as they are closing the book on a 2,000-year-old conflict. That was the manifestation of Jeremy's own narrative. However, the tables could have easily turned out differently if the story didn't glorify the humans and villainize the bugs. Since from everything we've seen and heard about the heroes of old, except Jeremy's own dad, was that they were actually kind of dicks. So Jeremy himself had a massive character growth in the last 2 episodes alone, where he realized just how blind and naive he truly was because of the world's struggles were of his own creation. Even though they tried pointing that out to him multiple times and you thought he would have learned that lesson, but no, he definitely now realizes the errors of his ways with the entire Bugnarok Deathnarak saga, and thus he bears a major burden to fix things. Yanma, well, look, Yanma is probably one of the most developed characters right next to Gira in terms of pathways. But looking at that poster real quick, makes me think that the throwaway line early on of him having a crush on Himeno may have grown into a relationship because they kinda twinning with all that yellow added onto his attire. Rita and Dabowski still have certain airs of mysteries to them, but In terms of personality, they have both grown a little bit more grounded. Rita, though stoic, broke out of that habit this week, with the very heartfelt moment between them and Morphonia. And Dabowski has been living good ever since Raculus kicked the bucket, theoretically. We didn't see a body. And thus, he gets his sister back. And look, I could probably speculate all day about that damn poster and the information from it. But seriously, that's what Friday's livestream is going to be about, so tune in then. So I'm going to try and just focus on what we've had up until this point, as it does seem to be wrapping up a lot of the character moments very nicely, while we still have a lot of seed plans from earlier episodes that have yet to go fulfilled. Next week though, it looks like the fight will turn into a duel for the sake of the Bugnarok Monarch. Himeno gets that hair did, and Gira finds a new Tarantula Shoe God? They're really cooking with this show, and now we really know why the pace is the way that it is. It's essentially 2 shows in one. We taking bets on a new intro though? As long as it's not the same as Go Buster's second opening. So, what did you think about this week's God King Oger? The team synergy, the betrayal for the sake of growth, and look at Godamp being relevant for 2 episodes in a row. Anyway, that's it for me. Until next time, bye.